Good morning. How you all doing? It's all right. You can carry on eating. It's all right. I won't pick on you or anything. All right. Thank you for coming along today to listen to our talk. My name is Queen, and that's my colleague Tony. We're talking about inside the attacker's mind. We'll just run through a few things. So a few things I'll be looking at today, as you can see, and hopefully we can get you out of here in time for you to have lunch. Okay. All right, who are we? We are from Phrenesis Security. It's a small bespoke consultancy based out in Melbourne, and we have Sydney staff and then also a few people from Perth. My name is Queen. I have a PhD in corporate governance from Macquarie University, but I work in the GRC space, so I do governance, risk, compliance, security awareness training, and the likes of it as well. Couple of sets. I'm not very into sets, so I wouldn't want you to focus on say, oh, what's the certification you need to do, JRC and stuff like that. No. The thing with being in cybersecurity is you have to be a constant learner. Tony?
Thanks, Quinn. My name is Tonee Marqus. I'm experienced penetration tester. I hold a Bachelor of Information and Communication Technology from Western State University. I have a bunch of certifications also. I'm interested in red teaming and Active Directory. I'm also a developer. I develop some hacking tools, and I also do some research. I also have my own CVE discovered on one of public research applications. Back to you, Quinn.
All right, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about the cyber kill chain. How many of you have heard about the cyber kill chain? One person. That's really interesting. I know you've all heard about it. You just tried to raise your hands.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. All right, so what's the kill chain itself? It was developed in 2011 by Martin Lockheed. Initially, what they were trying to use that for was for military operations. But then, if you think about how cybersecurity has evolved, the cyber kill chain became something that was relevant for cybersecurity, so people don't just react to cybersecurity attacks. It gives them some sort of way, some sort of linear way for them to understand precisely what happens in different stages of an attack. So that's what the cyber kill chain is all about. We'll talk about a bit more as we go on. Tony, why the kill chain?
Yeah, the goal is so we can understand what the attacker does. So, for example, what stages does they go into before completing their breach into the companies that we all like hear about maybe every week or every month. So it's called cyber kill chain for a reason. The reason is because we need to kill or break that chain before the attackers reaching the last stage, which is exfiltrating that or steal information. It's still also widely used today, often alongside with MITRE attack, which is an attack used for mapping all techniques and techniques and procedures for that attackers use. Back to you, Quinn.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so if we talk about the adversary toolkit, it's just trying to understand what's in the toolbox that adversaries actually use to conduct the attack. What do they do? What do they actually use when they're doing some of this attack? The first one is phishing. We've all gotten some of those phishing emails. If you have a junk folder in your mailboxes, you would see it's forever getting emails. So there are people who are just there sending out phishing emails every single day. There are billions and billions of emails that even go out. And even today, you have those SMSs. You've received those maybe OSPOs, DHL, SMSs, phishing, trying to get you to say, hey, your posts have been delivered here. Click on this link for you to get your delivery. So that's what we're referring to. I'm trying to lure people to click on those phishing links. And then sometimes some sort of malware code. I love malwares. I am not a malware reverse engineer or anything, but then they are just very brilliant softwares that have been written, but for malicious purposes. If you think about everything that a malware, a malicious code, what it does, it's brilliant. It's just not on the defender side. And so there'll be some sort of malware in there that may be there to maybe steal information or even cause damage. Also, exploits. Tony.
Yeah, exploits usually takes advantages of bugs inside the application itself. For example, attackers might be exploiting something publicly accessible. The company, almost every company, I think, have publicly facing infrastructure.
Yep.
So if attackers can find something there, then they can exploit it and have access to the company's network. Then, next one. Then it comes to the command and control systems, which are also called C2s. that keeps control over infected machines, so attackers can't control like any number of machines at the same time from the same software.
All right, so if we think about, we now understand a little bit about how they carry out what they do. So you ask yourself, why? What's the purpose? Why all of these phishing emails, all of these malicious codes, exploits, and C2 servers that we're referring to? Definitely, I said steal information. They ask you to click a link. They want to probably get some information, deploy some code. To steal information, credit card. Today, we're living in an information world. Every single thing you do can be done from maybe even your mobile phone, or even if you have a smartwatch. So all they're after is just to steal information from every single user. Different kinds of, even research data today is very, very profitable. If you think about during COVID, lots and lots of nation states were trying to hack each other to get data on research about the first person to get vaccine out there to make the world better. To make money, of course. If you have information, you can sell that. That's the reason why Google and Amazon and Facebook and all the rest of them keep dropping cookies into our different devices so they can harvest our data. So they're trying to make money, maybe from ransomware. If you think about 2017, the WannaCry ransomware, asking people to pay for them to get their data decrypted. But also, very importantly, they're trying to sell access. Tony, how?
Yeah, it's surprising that attackers started to sell access on the dark web. For example, now ransomware groups doesn't need to hack things. Sometimes they just go to the dark web, see a post, somebody's posting about initial access for a company with, for example, revenue of 5 billion. Then they buy that access, and it's also surprisingly not that expensive. It might be just $2,000. Then when they succeed with their attacks, like they can give ransomware for billions, millions sometimes. Yep. So yes, not only just ransomware. Interruption, taking servers offline, just attacking company, take it offline. Yes. Gaining long-term access, espionage, and also political motivities. We see that when we see like a country attacking other country. Just for political reasons and espionage. We have some statistics about Australia. So how is Australia performing in the last few years? So in the last few years, we have an average of 100 incidents every month, which is a big number. We have around 1,100 cybersecurity incidents just from June 2022 to July 2023, also from June 2023 to July 24th. It's a big number, so I think we need to take that down. All right, so top 3 cyber incidents in Australia. Queen, go for it.
How many of you fly Qantas here? Yeah, at some point you would have flown Qantas.
I do.
Or maybe you have. Oh, you do. Sorry. They got hacked a few months ago. So if you're a frequent flyer, then it just means that you probably have had some sort of emails, names, phone numbers, date of birth. If you probably flew an international flight, maybe you sent your passport details to them. Maybe the attacker right now, they have access to that as well. Though they said no passport info was affected, but then, I don't know. It's up to you to decide. But then ongoing investigations and all of that. But you can see how many, about 5 million users. If you do a Venn diagram in this room right now, and then think about all the various breaches that we've had, Optus, Medibank, Qantas, Latitude, how many more? There's so much. Somewhere along the line, we all have had our data exposed. So, next one.
Yeah, we have also Western Sydney University breach, which was also this year from January to February. 10,000 current and former students were affected, which I'm again one of them. Access via university single sign-on system that included academic records, personal details. Some records appeared in the dark web, was sold. Legal and cyber investigation ongoing.
Yeah, the Western Sydney one is interesting because it just felt like it was like a repeat customer. They had their data breach like first time and everyone was like, whoa, any news? The second time, it was no news anymore. The third time, like, oh, come on, seriously, like 3 times. It should be the charm, but then it wasn't for them.
Yeah, it's always surprising that company or organization spent, for example, $10,000 on cybersecurity, but once they have a breach, they start spending millions.
Millions, exactly.
And we always say that the most secure organization is the organization that already had a breach in the last few months. So they start like putting a lot of money just to secure the company. instead of compared to other company who doesn't
Yeah.
have any measures of cybersecurity.
Yeah, well, not Western Sydney. Not you guys. Sorry if anyone's from Western Sydney, not picking on you, but then. All right, how many of you like luxury brands? Come on. No one. Okay, you're all students, so you don't have the money for luxury brands.
Smart people, I
Well,
think.
that's good. That saves you some sort of data, because Louis Vuitton, they got hacked in July 2000 this year. So if there's anyone who is a customer from Louis Vuitton, you probably had some sort of personal data as well exposed.
I'm very happy that I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
this
no,
time.
I'm not one of them as well,
Survived
so kudos. All right, so let's talk about the kill chain itself. We'll have a look at some of the various steps within the kill chain. So there are about 7 steps, and we'll just go through the process and explaining some of these steps in a little bit more detail. So for the first one, recon. Anybody can perform recon. You don't necessarily have to be a very technical person. You just need to be very, very curious enough for you to go digging for data. If I'm standing here or you're standing there and then you Google my name and you may be doing some sort of recon, say, who is this Queen person talking to us here today? I can't tell. So you're just trying to gather some sort of information, and you may look me up on LinkedIn, try to find me on any social media and say, hey, does she have any social media presence somewhere? What you're trying to do is just to get a whole lot of information, and that's the same thing the attackers do when they try to gather information about any sort of entity that they're trying to attack. They look at a company or a target that they're interested in, and then they try to do a whole lot of digging, open source intelligence, get information. But then the funny thing with that, like I said, it's not very easy to detect. Like I said, unless I have some sort of alert set up to say, if anybody Googles Queen, and you can imagine when Queen Elizabeth died, I would have been getting a whole lot of alerts, because people would then be, oh, Queen, 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 and then I get all of those alerts. But then you can actually tell a little bit if you had some sort of script set up, maybe someone's doing like a large data scraping of the internet, then maybe you would get some sort of alert to know, hey, there's somebody that's actively checking you out, and then you try to understand precisely what they are looking for.
Yeah, Quinn, even if you have like a public-facing infrastructure and you see traffic coming, you can't like tell this one is somebody trying to attack me or this one is not, because usually at this every day, every moment, there is bots, million bots just online, just trying to interact with your publicly-facing infrastructure. So it's hard to filter this kind of traffic to what traffic you are looking for. And detect what kind of open source intelligence or reconnaissance is going against you.
Yeah, so when all of that information have been gathered about the said targets, then what happens? Weaponization. So you have to try to find some sort of way for you to then equip, using that information that you've gotten to get some sort of, maybe a payload, like we talked about phishing, so some sort of way for that to be sent out. Tony?
Yeah, the weaponization starts with preparing the attack payload. So at this stage, the attacker is preparing his own payload, for example, creating a malware, developing an exploit, or embedding it in a document, for example, a Word document or an Excel document. A procedure is build custom malware, embed in Word PDF, or as you said, and combine payloads. Detection is usually impossible because the attacker is just using his own machine. So we can't access his machine, therefore detection is very hard in this stage. But the only way to detect is when the attacker trying to deliver the payload to the victim. So if you have antiviruses or EDRs, endpoint detection systems, you will be able to detect it. For example, threat intelligence flags known malware, which is, for example, Metasploit malware, just very detectable. Sandboxes detect suspicious files, suspicious file creation, and modification alerts on endpoints. So, for example, one of the techniques that we see like currently used by the attackers is something called decoy. So what they try to do is zipping 4 files in one ISO file. The victim will usually only see the report.pdf. It's usually not a PDF, it's a link file. So the other ones, random.bat, payload.exe, decode.pdf would be hidden. Once the victim clicks on the report.pdf, nothing will appear, but after 1 second, the run.bat will run, then the payload will be executed, then decode.pdf, which will include some random information inside. the user wouldn't see anything, only a PDF popping in his face, so it's normal execution. Then the payload will be executed on his machine, and initial access will be granted. So detection for that should be easy because it could be analyzed, but attackers always try to be smarter than defenders. So what they did is they played with the ISO file itself to escape mark of the web. Mark of the web is something that Microsoft invented to separate downloaded files. For example, if I download a file from Russia, it will be flagged and the warning will be shown to myself. But attackers also try to prevent detection by detecting the execution mechanism. For example, if the user clicks the PDF using mouse, the file will be executed and the chain will be started. But if we go like after modifying the random bat, they added a new line, the second line, which is detection. So it detects the execution method. For example, if the attacker, if the victim double clicks, it will work. If the analyzing tools like antiviruses, analyzing it wouldn't be run because it's being run from the command line. So this is one of the mechanisms that, or detection ways that attackers are using to escape antiviruses and detection mechanisms. Delivery. Back to you, Quinn.
Oh yeah, delivery, that's me. All right, so with delivery, so we've talked about how all of that is weaponized, information weaponized, and then delivery. So you have to find some sort of way to get all of this malware that have been put together across to the victim or across to the target. And that's what we have here in this case. Like I talked about the phishing emails, for instance, or even the SMSs that you get with some sort of link embedded in there. So you get that, or even back in the day when USBs were something that was quite pricey, people just do a USB drop and then with the malware already loaded. So you take that, you plug it into your system. In a split second, even before you are done trying to get into the folders, the malware would have deployed itself. Drive-by download, spear phishing as well. But then all of these things, what they're trying to do is to leave some sort of infection, leave some sort of payload, malware, whatever it is on the device, on the network, for the attacker to then gain more access. So phishing emails could be flagged if you have the appropriate technical countermeasures that could be flagged. Malicious downloads, the same thing. Web proxies could easily detect that as well. And then if that's something that's been detected within the network, it can be taken into a sandbox and then analyzed by the network defenders.
Not working?
Yep. Oh, that's it.
All right, exploitation. So the tactic here is executing the attack to gain access. So the technique is exploit the software vulnerability, for example, for publicly facing infrastructure, or just macro script execution, privilege escalation. So procedure would be somebody opening malicious macros or exploit unpatched software and gain admirize using privilege escalation techniques. Detection, so EDRs alert abnormal process creation because attackers usually create processes with weird names. They can also use processes from the system, process names from the system itself, but system detects that name because it wasn't created by the system itself, so it was created by some kind of normal users, so that's easily flagged. Behavioral monitoring detects privilege escalation attempts. It's usually easy to detect privilege escalation attempts because it might most of the time contains service creation. Patch management logs unusual software activity. All right, installation. Tactic here would be establish persistence. So one of the most important things in the cyber culture is attackers always aim to have persistence. Why having persistence is it's basically just not to go through the other steps once again. So they escape all the steps that we talked about and they start from the installation phase. So they always have persistence. They start from there, not going from the beginning. So the technique is install a malware backdoor or create persistence mechanism. Procedure is add malicious service or modify startup scripts. Startup scripts is well-known ones. So all the attackers need to do is just place their exe file on the startup folder for Windows, and or also they can do deploy rats. Detection is antivirus alerts for sure. Then we have file integrity monitoring, detects new services or startup changes, endpoint alerts, and visual software installation. All right, so command and control C2 systems. So this is also one of the most important techniques in cyberculture. So once the attackers, for example, sends 1,000 of phishing emails or malware to victims, they need some kind of software that will receive these connections and not losing any of these connections. So this is why C2 was invented for the beginning, so they can maintain communication to compromised systems. The technique would be outbound connection to attacker server, custom protocols, encrypted channels. Procedure is connect back to the C2 server, DNS tunneling, rotate servers. So they usually host the C2 on AWS, Azure, wherever, but they also hide it. For example, they use just a normal HTTP server that relay the traffic to his server. So when defenders are analyzing the traffic, they will only see the HTTP server, but not the C2 server traffic. So it wouldn't be very obvious to detect. So detection is monitoring unusual outbound traffic to network or network patterns, as we said. Also detect repeated connection to suspicious IPs and domains, inspect encrypted traffic for anomalies. So examples for C2s is Cobalt Strike. Cobalt Strike is the gold standard at the moment used in the industry. We also have Havoc and many others. We also have Shadow Command, which is a C2 that I released last month. It was developed by myself.
Tony's just being humble about it. It's a really cool tool, but then I'll let him do all the talking.
All right, so Shadow Command C2 is another C2 that have some special features. For example, it's easy to install. Usually Cobalt Strike and other C2s take some time and some knowledge to install and interact with. The thing that I aimed this time when creation of this C2 is to make it as easy as possible to install and very easy to it should be just installed on Windows in 5 minutes. So it's can be used for red team ready and educational, cross-platform. You can have big connections from Linux or Windows. You can also have operators. For example, if you are working with your friend on a project, you can both connect to the C2 and work together. There is also some advanced evasion mechanisms and persistence, so you can have persistence on a machine with just one click. We also have Discord and Telegram interaction. So one of the features that I have added to this one is Discord. You can execute command from Discord from your phone. For example, you just send command to the C2 and C2 execute it on the victim machine. Then the results is send it back to your phone to Discord boot. Also, as I said, fast setup and encrypted communications. We use TLS encryption for the traffic. I'm also working on evasion mechanism by adding HTTP traffic on the C2. So when you are interacting with the victim machine, it should be just HTTP traffic going over the network, so detection will be less. If you want to play with this one, just having an idea about C2s, you can just download it from my GitHub repo. Otherwise, you can just look on Google for Shadow Command C2, and you should be able to look for it. All right, objectives.
All right, thanks, Tony. Please take note, the C2 server is for educational purpose only, so please do not use that to perform any sort of malicious activities. So actions on objectives, we've talked about a whole lot, like 6 different steps before we got to this point. They've done the recon, they've done weaponization, the attacker in this case have gone through all of this process to even maintain persistence within the system. Why? All because the goal has been finally achieved here. They've probably had some sort of way to get information, exfiltrate data out of the system, or even maintain persistence. They would have maybe deployed some sort of malware on the device or on the system or the network. If you think about different malware attacks that have happened in different countries, different industries, that's what they're trying to do, to get, like I said earlier, to get some sort of data. The end goal here is to get some sort of data that they can maybe even sell or even use for identity theft or different things Encrypts data if it's something, we know ransomware is still very much around. They could encrypt data and then demand some sort of ransom, but then what we have now is even like double extortion. The ransomware will be deployed, they ask you to pay some sort of ransom, you pay the ransom or not, and then they even go ahead and still sell the data on the dark web, just to make additional money from the data that have been collected as well. Sometimes to make it very difficult for defenders to even recover, what they tend to do is then even if your backup is connected to your main network, they delete your backup or even encrypt the backup, delete configuration files. So it becomes even very, very difficult because that's their goal, but then they also want to make it very difficult for the defender to get some sort of, to get back online. And so what can you do in terms of detection? We talked about endpoint monitoring. You can try, if you have a nice setup, maybe with your security operations or your defender, all your network devices are thoroughly monitored, then you can actually see and know when you see some sort of sign, some sort of abnormal activities. Today we have AI plugged into almost every single system or interface. Yes, you can use that to also do your monitoring, and then it analyzes for any sort of abnormal behaviors, and you can get your alerts as well. Data loss prevention is another one that is really key as well. You can see, even if it's a user who makes a mistake and maybe clicking, you know how people just do reply all, or then they are supposed to attach just one tab in an Excel sheet, and then they'll upload this massive Excel spreadsheet that contains sensitive data. With DLP, if that's properly configured within your tenant, you can actually then flag that, and you notice, or someone else who is trying to maybe exfiltrate data, you can easily detect that as well. Same thing, you can get, you can configure your systems to get alerts for encryption. So if a malware has been deployed and that's propagating within your network, you can get an alert and quickly stop that somewhere in the chain. That's the reason why we're talking about the kill chain. So that at some point, you may not notice recon, you may not notice the weaponization, you may be able to stop the installation, you may be able to get to the C2 point and then stop the attack as well. Backup file integrity, you can also have a look at that to see, to get some sort of detections.
The funny part, Quinn, is we notice sometimes with our clients, sometimes they host the backup itself on their servers.
Same server.
So when the server is compromised, the backup is also gone.
Yeah,
so
it's gone.
The advice is always keep your backup somewhere else. Don't keep it on the same network.
Keep it
don't
offline
keep it on the
if you
same
can.
server.
Keep some sort of hard copy, take some backup, have some sort of schedule to take backups offline. Even if it's in tapes, keep it in a secure location so that if you do have that attack, your backup that is online within the network is encrypted. You have somewhere where, I'll give you an instance. I think it was during the 2017 ransomware when that happened. I think it was Maersk. They had servers, of course, it's a very large shipping company. With WannaCry, their whole systems were, of course, it was encrypted thanks to the virus, the ransomware that was encrypting systems. But then they had one backup, and that was just because that particular network was not connected at that point in time when the ransomware was making its rounds. And this was in Africa. So they had to fly someone from the UK in Europe to Africa, I think in Ghana, to get the backup. And there was nobody could actually go, so they went digging, and then that was how they were able to get some sort of backup, even though it wasn't up to date, but then they were able to restore part of their systems. It just shows you how it's actually advisable to have your backups offline, away from the rest of the network, so you don't have that ransomware spread, and then you're caught.
Yeah, they were very lucky that the power was off that day. We notice some clients sometimes uses, like, for example, backup server that connects every week for a few hours, take the backup, then take it off, then just like that, repeating this operation, so they stay safe when something bad happens.
Yep. All right, a couple of case studies. I'll let Tonee do the talking on this one.
Yeah, let's apply the cyber kill chain on Western Sydney University breach.
Sorry,
we talked about Western Sydney. Sorry for that. So reconnaissance for Western Sydney started from targeted Western Sydney is a troubled SSO system after previous breaches. So we know that Western Sydney had few other breaches, let's say, before the main breach. So the attacker used that information to do the final attack and gain full access. Then the weaponization was developed tools and methods to exploit the SSO, single sign-on. authentication weaknesses, and bypass existing MFA controls. Delivery likely was credential harvesting campaigns or social engineering attacks targeting university staff and students. Then exploitation was successfully compromised SSO system to gain unauthorized access to student management systems and data warehouses. Then it comes to the installation. They installed their own persistence on the system. So within the university network infrastructure for sustained access throughout January and February this year. Then they used command and control systems again to maintain communications, to coordinate the data exfiltration, because command and control systems also have some supported mechanism to exfiltrate the data. So they use that also, and link that with the previous 2024 breach data for the dark web posting. Actions and objectives successfully accessed 10,000 student records, published data on dark web. They sold it, caused reputational damage, and forced expensive remediation efforts. So I think Wisconsin spent a lot of money just to recover from this incident. I don't know how much, but it should be a huge amount of money. Yeah. So primary attack vector was single sign-on SSO compromised, persistence, present vulnerabilities in the Microsoft MFA implementation, so that one of the main weaknesses that they had allowed repeat unauthorized access to the sensitive student data systems. So if you go to the breach timeline, it started in May 2024. First breach was 7,500 email accounts and SharePoint files compromised. Then in July 2024, second breach happened where 580 terabytes of data was lost. In November 2024, third breach happened. Also student data and environment information accessed. In January and February 2025, fourth breach happened, which was the biggest one, I think. 10,000 student records compromised via SSO system. Then in March 2025, we saw this data sold on the dark web. So impact statistics, as we said, for breaches in 12 months, which is a huge number. And 10,000 students' records was published, 580 terabytes lost, 45,000 total students at risk. So systemic defense failure was present of SSO vulnerabilities. Sorry. Then inadequate Microsoft MFA implementation, poor network segmentation, which is something the security architecture people are supposed to implement. Poor network segmentation, as we said, delayed threat detection. Threat detection is when something happened in your network, you have somebody detecting it. They were just a bit late to detect that. Insufficient access controls on sensitive student data, so no alerts were generated. They didn't feel anything. And lack of data loss prevention controls, which also was missing. Current remediation efforts was migration to Okta Verify SSO platform, which is considered to be more secure, and enhanced MFA capabilities. Yeah.
All right, so we've given you all of these lovely statistics and details. Hopefully, you get the gist of what we're talking about in the with the cyber kill chain. And then this is your own time to say, hey, so with all of these lovely things you've been saying, this sounds like it's something that's very experienced. Tonee already has a C2 server. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to even start my journey if this is something that I'm interested in? You can easily get involved. It's not very difficult.
Yeah, so joining the community offensive roles, this is where I work most of the time. So you can join as penetration tester. So I think most of you already know what does penetration tester does. So the penetration tester fits the kill chain by doing Greco and weaponization exploitation, To get started, you can learn about networking, Linux, scripting, Python or Bash. Starting with home labs should be just very simple to implement, or you can use Hack the Box and try Hack Me. Certifications, we always advise for OSCP. Then you can go for OSAA, which is a web-based certification. Then you can go more advanced in OSEP, which is a network one. Then OSAA, which is also an advanced version of OSAA for web applications. You can also be a red teamer. Red teamer is a bit harder to start with compared to a penetration tester. So in my opinion, if you want to be red teamer, you need to be penetration tester first. So red teamer fits in the kill chain, so they have ability to do full attack simulation, lateral movement resistance. Getting started would be build strong pen test based first, as I said, then focus on Active Directory, labs, evasion, and CTO frameworks. So red teamers, most of them use CTO frameworks. So if you want to be red teamer, focus on learning CTO frameworks. Certifications, again, OSCP is always recommended. CRTO, which teaches Cobalt Strike. You have also CRTP, which focuses on Windows-based tools for attacking. Then you have OSEP and CRTE, which is for evasion. Then it comes to the exploit developer. This is like less known compared to penetration testers and red teamers, but it's a bit more complicated to learn and study. It needs some programming background, I think, Python, C#, C++. So it fits in the kill chain by creating weaponization phase malwares, then also initial access malwares, and also developing exploit for privilege escalation. Getting started would be, as I said, learning C and C++, assembly, even assembly is for more advanced level, but still recommended. Reverse engineering certification would be OSED and OSAA, which is I think the most advanced certification for offensive security. Then we go for the blue team side. So if you prefer to be blue teamer, not a red teamer, you want to live in peace, just protecting companies, not attacking companies, you have a choice to be SOC analyst. So it fits the chain by providing detection, response, and containment. So containment stands for once you have one of your system affected in a breach, you contain that system or a machine from the other machines within the network, so it shouldn't be able to access anything until you try to study what happened in this machine and analyze the alerts. Then getting started would be learning SIM tools, Splunk, ELK, study attack logs, join blue team CTFs, certs, CompTIA Security Plus, blue team level 1, and GCIA. You can also be an incident responder or a threat hunter. So it fits the chain by providing detection, analysis, eradication, recovery. Getting started to be learning Windows, Linux forensics, memory analysis, log hunting, use labs like detection labs for further study. Certification should be GCFA, GCIH, CHFI. Then we come to the last one. So it could also be security architecture. This is one of the most critical roles that we see every day. So companies usually have someone responsible to separate or segment their own network. So they provide like a secure design for the network. For example, if someone hacked a part of this network, can we prevent this person from moving to the other parts of the network, then gaining access to most important system that we have. So it fits the chain by providing designs, building layered defenses, and resilience. Getting started to build knowledge in cloud, network designs, IAM, and zero trust, gain hands-on architecture reviews. Certs are CIE, SSP, SABSA, CCP, Azure, and AWS security certifications.
And if you're thinking, these are very, very technical roles, what can I do?
We got you.
Yeah, I mean, be on the white team, GRC. It's still a fun part, even though you're not chasing malwares and looking for bad guys or testing networks. You can still be a governance, risk, and compliance person. So first one, you can be a GRC analyst just because you just need to get maybe some sort of experience. With Recon, so what you're trying to do there is to try and develop policies, standards, understand some sort of way, conduct risk assessment, for instance, so the organization actually understand the risks behind some of these attacks. Basically, what you're trying to do is to get started. You're studying standards, understand frameworks, and just understand policies, regulations, and how all of this fits with the organization, so you can help them to be compliant. And so when you do your risk assessment, you can actually then provide some sort of recommendation, so they are meeting, they remain compliant in some sort of way as well. Sets to start with, there's CompTIA Security Plus. ISC 2 Squad, I think they're still offering certified in cyber for free, so it's something you can look up. Anybody can do that. It just gives you some sort of basic knowledge if you're trying to start up in cybersecurity. Incident response, threats, and awareness. The reason why that's there, I know Tonee spoke about incident response and threat intelligence, but on this side, what you're trying to do is to educate people. So you understand the incident response process, and then you're trying to do maybe things like tabletop exercises, you're doing threat awareness briefing, and even security awareness briefing, and you're talking to people about all of these things. So within that whole first process in Recon and weaponization, you're actually telling people, hey, this is what you can do to not be the vector, so the attackers can get in. So that's what you can actually do within the GRC space as well. Same thing, you need some sort of communication. You can't try to educate people and not say anything. You have to find some sort of way to talk to people when you're doing that. Same thing, some sets are required, some sets are not required, but then some sort of knowledge. The reason why CompTIA Plus and CC is there, because if you study those materials, it gives you an understanding of certain topic areas within cybersecurity, even if it's just foundational knowledge. And then being an internal auditor, what you're trying to do then is to validate security controls within organizations and trying to understand, hey, if you have DLP, for instance, is that configured properly? If you say you have EDRs, for instance, are those done properly? So you're doing that against some sort of framework, some sort of standard. So the same thing, you need to understand frameworks, standards, regulations, and then you're doing all of this assessment to understand if those organizations are actually compliant. So it's not just to check, you're actually going there to verify and do some sort of assessment, interviews, have a look at policies, documents, and procedures to understand if these people are doing what they say they do. But then for that, you need to get some sort of audit, some sort of auditor certification. So there's ISO certification to be a lead auditor. There is one from ISACA. There are a couple of auditor certifications out there that you can actually get so you can perform those assessments as an auditor. Any questions?
I have a question for you, Queen.
Tell me.
So, women in cybersecurity, what do you prefer for, like, some ladies joining cybersecurity? Red teamer, blue teamer, GRC?
Knowing what I know now, it's fun to be in the blue or the red team. I love GRC, don't get me wrong. But then if I was going back to school or studying now, I'll probably do something, maybe blue team. And then because you can always pivot into GRC, but then if you have all of this knowledge behind you as well, then it makes you like a unicorn if you're in GRC with all of this. So I may have been a blue teamer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. All questions are welcome. So if you have a question, please ask.
Any comments?
Yes, I had a question.
Yeah.
Kind of in your experience so far, how have you been seeing, so like the Western Sydney University had the multi-factor authentication getting compromised. How have you been seeing that taking place, I guess, in your experience?
I'll leave it for you.
Oh. MFA is something that any organization right now should have enabled or configured. It's basic, like that's baseline security. But then if you think about it, with GRC, what we try, or rather with cybersecurity in general, what we try to do is not to let security become an inconvenience for people. And that's where most times organizations actually then say, hey, we have this person who may not be or maybe this set of people. For instance, there was a client I was working with, and then they had people who were on the field, and it becomes increasingly difficult for them to actually do authentication. So they give them a device, and with that device, they don't actually need to do any sort of MFA to get into the system. And we're like, what if someone gets access to that device? So you can see there are places where people then try to have some sort of alternate control, but then it's a risk-based decision for the business to say, fine, we'll accept this. If we give them a device, we know that that is something that could be compromised or stolen, but we understand that. So as much as people turn on MFA, if you even ask how many of you have MFA turned on all your social media accounts or maybe your personal accounts, not everybody, because it's kind of an inconvenience sometimes, but MFA can also be hacked. So it has to be done properly for it to actually work. Anything?
Yeah, no comments. Perfect.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? Yep.
In your experience, apart from MFA, what are the basic mistakes that an organization in the present times do which can lead to them being a vulnerability to attackers, apart from MFA?
Yeah, I think patching. Companies sometimes, we see, for example, Windows 7 is still being used in most of the companies that we test. So patching is something that most of the company miss because they're afraid of having an outage or something. So that means that it's always vulnerable. You can always try to hack these machines because old one, Windows 7, 8, for example, is not supported anymore. So it's just a headache for every company to patch them because they're just afraid of having an outage in their network. So I would say patching.
Yeah, no, patching is a very, very good call out, and there are many organizations. If you think about how things are going pretty fast, we're at Windows 11 right now. Surprise, surprise, there are organizations that still have XP stored somewhere that require, maybe just because some component within the system requires only a Windows XP. If there's maybe the manufacturer of that particular component may not even be around anymore. So you have things like that. So patching becomes an issue. And generally, just people don't. It's almost like a business decision. What's the return on investment? If you do there's a whole calculation and a whole. What's the return on investment if I take 10 million, for instance, and I throw that into cybersecurity? You don't really see the return, except that fine, you don't get hacked. So when you're trying to make a business decision and say, I need 2 million, for instance, to do all of these upgrades and things, and you're like, we'd rather throw that into R&D or somewhere else where we can actually see some returns. So most times it depends on the business, it depends on a whole lot of things, depends. That's the consultant answer. It depends, but then patching is one very key area, like Tony said. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.